What's happening, YouTube? My name is Immortal Coil, and this is not a show for kids. So, if you're not scared of wordy dirties, go ahead and keep on listening. With me is my good friend Flipp Doubt. How you doing today, sir?
Hola, amigo. I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you?
Despite the technical difficulties, we were just backstage and suffering the worst kind of government interference that you can ask for.
That's what it was. I mean, every time you try to start talking about UFOs and aliens, they shut you down, or they try to.
That's what I think too. And we have a lot of that to talk about. Oh yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm hearing ringing in my ears too, so I'm thinking, yeah, something's going on, man. Something's going on.
Yeah, you're starting to matrix out. So I, I guess we better get to the topic. So we were talking about how there is a lack of normal people talking about UFOs and close encounters and kind of stuff like that. It's like you have to have an accent or a stupid haircut or a stupid bow tie to even, you know,
You can
have a
sit,
platform. Yeah.
yeah, wear a doctor's coat and walk around with glasses and a clipboard and have some degree on the wall saying that you know something about science, and even then you're just a quack. So
Well, yeah, and then I'm forced to wonder from the visitor's perspective, how do they decide who to interact with? A lot of times I've heard that it's generational lines. Like if you've had experiences, it's probably true that your mother, your grandmother, your father, blah blah blah, had experiences. Have you uh, have you heard anything in your family besides yourself?
a lot of people in their family, they have that eccentric aunt or uncle or cousin or something, but I don't. I think we had a black sheep aunt, but that's about it. I've never really been able to talk about experiences like this with, well, anyone in my family. My dad, he'll laugh at my conversation. I'm not quite sure how much he believes, if any. But yeah, I haven't really had a person to talk to about it in my family, and no one who's had previous experiences.
Well, and I think it's typical that most people are told to shut up.
Yeah.
Um, the the first time I ever had a reaction to something was the cover of Communion, and that face doesn't look quite right, but it's pretty fucking close to it.
Communion.
Yeah, with a Whitley Strieber.
I'm looking it up real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. It's
Sounds
from the
familiar.
80s. Yeah. There was a feature film with Christopher Walken. But the book is high strangeness all around, man.
Oh, okay. It's a book.
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of this. It's very familiar. So it's about abduction, right?
Uh on its surface. So Whitley Strieber, his story was that he has a cabin out in Colorado somewhere, and when he would go on a vacation, they would show up. And it's not like the typical like the lights go off and the blue ball comes in the window and takes you away. Um, they would show up in his living room and you know
As if to say, we don't normally sit around and have a beer, but this is how we do it, you know?
pretty
But
much, and it's also that sort of thing where okay, we're humans, we're going to get an ant farm, but
yes.
the ants don't know what's going on. They're just like, okay, I'm going to sit in somebody's window right now.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that analogy. Like I liken it back to like if you have anyone out there, if you're listening and you have had some sort of experience or you know of someone who has, the best way to, I think, uh, you might compare it to being you yourself meeting a Cro-Magnon man straight out of the mucky goo, starting to walk and doesn't even know what the wheel is yet, and you're trying to explain what just happened to you and how you came back in time or something. They would just look at you and then probably try to punch you or something.
Well, yeah. And I think about it too, like not to suggest that we're pets, but like when we speak to dogs or cats, you know, we know what we're doing. We're trying to get them to do something. They're happy to hang out with us, but do they really know uh what we're about? You know,
Yeah, it's funny you would say pets because, like, sometimes a pet will understand, and then other pets don't get you at all. They have no understanding. It's as if some pets have a higher form of consciousness than others. So notice
mhm,
that the military and police use, Rottweilers and German Shepherds and Akita,
mhm,
but they're never using like a Jack Russell for drug sniffing, But
mhm.
some are more trainable than others, and hence the idea of a higher form of consciousness, a more of a way to say, okay, well, you can give sign language to an ape, and you can give verbal commands to a dog, but you have to show them with either a bell or a treat or something. But I
Yeah.
personally believe that some dogs literally understand the language you're speaking. But that it coincides with what we're talking about here is in a way that some people are more receptive to speaking to entities that well, they let's just say they might be picked by aliens because they know they'll be understood by them.
Well, and I also want to explore this topic is if it's not genetic, perhaps it's spiritual, perhaps some sort of a soul signature. You know, I think that pretty much everybody who's alive right now didn't start on planet Earth. We just kind of came over here and saw that there was some interesting stuff going on.
Mm.
And who knows? Maybe we were uh, inhabitants of wherever they came from.
Well,
That's why. What do you think?
there are obviously other dimensions, and we
Mhm.
don't know. Do you remember being? I don't remember being in the womb personally, but before the womb, I mean, let's say that you were part of your father or your mother or both, whatever. Before that, before humans altogether, you were something somewhere somehow. Otherwise, you wouldn't be now.
Well,
To
yeah,
me,
there's that saying that when you die, you lose 4 pounds instantly. Pow.
your soul.
Might that be your spirit? Yeah. And if your spirit is immutable and not married to planet Earth and you have some sort of free will, uh, maybe you were born somewhere else before.
Yeah, I've actually always believed in other lives. Like something catches your eye, your brain kind of goes into. By the way, the brain is a miracle. We still
Right.
can't stop it, but you know, you catch something and you're like, well, that's what's the word I'm looking for? Deja vu. Um,
Right.
and then you put that into science, like, well, there's supposedly multiple dimensions, and then there's also alternate realities and separate universes, alternate universes. Um, your mind is like the antenna to your soul, right?
I think so. Um, I also think that in terms of deja vu, like you were saying, your memory is something that works backwards in time. I think deja vu is memory going forward in time. So you set up major cues in your life so that you know that you're on the right path. Because I've had that several times where just I'm sitting there talking to somebody and we're both going like, yeah, we're realizing this thing at the same time.
Yeah. Like you were both thinking.
Yeah. You're sharing the same brain, which is also another interesting feature about hanging out with extraterrestrials. They're not verbal. You hear them inside your head.
I would agree with that. Like, not just because I've seen it or heard of it. Like I told you in the last time we got together that it's almost indistinguishable, the experience I had between a dream and reality. It's like having the most real dream you've ever had, or the I'm sorry.
Oh, you were breaking up. So like it was really like long and pronounced. So the last thing I heard is that it's hard to distinguish.
Wow, man, you're breaking up too.
Right there, sir.
All right, you there?
Yeah. All right. Well, thing that I heard you say was that, and in my estimation, it's because there are different levels of density that life fixes itself upon. Talk ourselves into our physicality. So it seems more dreamlike. Or if they have to alter, have them and is any of this coming through, Flip?
That came through. The last thing you said came through.
Maybe true.
It's so
Gonna have to, somebody's watching this.
I can't hear you, Captain. I'm telling you, every time you try to start talking about aliens or whatever, this is what happens.
Yeah, I did. I don't know.
It's really odd. Hello?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
Okay, so I can hear the phone. I can't hear the computer. So therapy, man. So I don't know. I guess just the powers that be to talk about this stuff. Crazy. My phone's
Whoa. This is really odd.
Try-
I literally just got off a stream with the FC. Rick and I were on the awesome stream, some awesome guests. But none of this was an issue. It's actually that is weird. I don't know if anyone can hear us. Like, it's just me, but it's the stream because of this issue. Are you there? Uh-huh.
Okay. I can hear you a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear you straight good now.
Can you hear me?
Well, I could for a minute.
Okay.
God,
Yeah.
this is crazy.
Okay. Breaking time, but it's not. Yeah, not as bad as it. Well, now that we got it out, um, what I was saying was if there's some changes be brought into their seats, 3D, 4D, 5D. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
This is fucking bizarre. So we're 20 minutes in. We've only said like 10 words,
Yeah,
and we're getting fucked with.
it feels like it. Because I looked
If-
at the weather radar. There's no weather between us from Washington to Georgia. None.
That's fucking strange.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I heard coherently from you was that it felt like a dream. And what I was attempting to say was that if there's any changes to our physicality from us in our 3D perspective to their sometimes 4 or 5D perspective, it can feel like a dream.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at that. It's like a different dimension, one we can't comprehend except as a dream, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and maybe our brains are also so noisy that that's the aspect of us that they can touch, you know?
Sure. And they have well, I'd see if you agree with this, but from my experience, it's like a hive mind. Does
Uh-huh.
and that if you try and translate hive mind aliens, to how it might work on just our plane of existence, Earth, in reality, that becomes like sort of a commune type of situation, um, or like a caste, uh, but a really extreme one. I'm not so sure in real life, I would want people reading my thoughts. Now, having been born that way in a group as large as, say, 1 million people, in that case, I would probably be able to adapt and everything would be fine. But having already lived this way, then suddenly having my mind read, that'd be one messed up situation.
Well, see, and I've always thought that language and verbal communication was a management tool by whoever designed our genome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if we were telepathic, and not that we're not, we just don't practice it. If thought and idea and language and communication were instantaneous as it should be, then we're a lot harder to control, aren't we?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I would love to be able to communicate telepathically and have telekinesis and be able to move objects and such. And in a dream world, you can to a degree. I remember when I was really young, I had a dream, and in that dream, I was self-aware, which is really rare for a dream, at least for me.
Lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, and I decided that I could fly. All I had to do was put my arms beside me and just go up. But what was really awesome about it is that I was standing in my front yard and I could see everything, not only from the perspective of standing on the ground, but it was a completely realistic dream, right? Like as if I were really standing in my front yard. The leaves were fine and normal in the same spot
Uh-huh.
they were in real life, to the pebbles on the ground. Everything was just right. But when I went up into the sky, I could see the ground and everything looked as if it would normally look should I be able to fly. What is that? That to me, it plays
It almost sounds like an out of body experience.
perhaps it was. I was only like 8 or 9 years old, something along those lines. But
Well,
that played.
so were weird things like that typical in your childhood? Because the first experience that I remember was probably in second or third grade. And yeah, I guess there was that dreamlike quality to it, but I was standing at my back door and beings were there. I didn't see the ship like landed or nothing, but yeah.
You've had a lifelong experience.
Yes.
I'm more of a reject. They brought me up and they were like, yeah, he's all right, but later. But you were
Like we saw him. He's all right. Yeah. Yeah, well, and it's multiple races, Flip. It's not like the typical. I mean, I've encountered grays, but they're not my only experience. And actually, I don't like grays that much, and they don't like me much either. So
that's amazing.
yeah, well, they have kind of like that hive mind that you're talking about, and they have I almost want to say it's like a wolf pack order where they use fear to as a sign of their station. And I've had a very uh clear experience where I was in the face of a hybrid and they were trying to one up me, and I had to like get buck with it, and not like in a violent type of way, but just like in an energy, like just like if you're trying to tell your dog to stop it, like you have to buck up like that.
Yeah.
And it relented. Yeah.
So, now that you mention it, the last time we talked, I told you about the dream where my abduction dream slash reality was.
Yeah.
You just reminded me by saying the Greys use fear as part of their station. I remember another dream suddenly.
Go ahead.
I was in a parking lot with family. I feel like my kids were, at least two of my kids were there of the three. And it's like we just left a game, like a baseball game or something. I don't know. It was really random. All of a sudden, you're in dreamland. You feel like you've been there your whole life and it's a normal situation. It was nighttime and I felt like something or someone was looking at me. And this happens in real life. You think someone's, you turn and they are. And it's like, what? Weird.
You feel their eyes on you. Yeah.
Exactly. And I turned again. Was this a dream? I don't know. But I saw one. It wasn't a short 3-foot gray though. He was much taller. And I was like suddenly in fear for my life. It's a very clear flight or fight reaction when you get it. And the weird part is I think based on what you can expect or not expect is whether you fight or flight. And since I didn't expect it, I felt fear immediately. I turned and he was maybe 20 feet away. I could see from the waist up, and there were cars, literally like a freaking Honda Civic between us or something, or maybe two cars. And I was like, "What the fuck?" And the next thing I know, he was in my face.
Yeah.
I went to the ground, like, because I jumped so hard. No,
well, there's like shut off switches in our brains, man. Fear is their it pours off of them, and you either deal with it or you shut down. That's the only way that I can think to explain it.
What's weird, and I agree with you. That's what made me remember it the way you said that. Is that I've had those two experiences, at least the only two I can recall. And that first one was pure love and joy and relaxation, like 5 years old on Christmas morning. Like you got all the toys you wanted. Oh my God, the lights are everywhere. Everyone has love in their heart and happy and joy. It was amazing. Never felt anything that intense, the first one, even though I'm pretty sure they were experimenting on me somehow, but I didn't feel like it. To go from that, the very next experience I had that was, with aliens was the fear one. What's up with that?
Well, it makes me want to ask, do you feel like the love, was that something that they put in you, or that's just what you felt, or what they wanted you to feel?
I feel like they put a drug in me. That's how it felt, because when I woke up, I remember when I went to sleep that night, I had my left arm down by my side, pushed up against a pillow that I had to my left. And when I woke up, my head was turned in the same direction. My hand had not moved. My arm was in the right spot. It's as if I went so far asleep that I didn't budge all night, but yet the sun was up. And I thought that was very strange. But the strangest part of all that is that I still felt that warm glow in my stomach and my heart and my head, like someone had drugged me, and I was still not even close to coming off of it. I was just it was weird. That was weird.
Well, yeah. Any honestly, like the fucking way that we live is weird. You know, getting up and going to work and checking your bank account and looking on your cell phone. And I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Life was supposed to be something much different than the way that we've designed it. And I don't know, like if you read our ancient texts and all that stuff, we've never not been out of contact with intelligent life. It's just now we have like TV and cell phones to compare other shit to, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Well, actually,
Yeah.
in only what, since the 1920s, or was it the 30s, where TVs started getting, made or whatever. Was it the 20s or 30s? I can't remember. But let's be modest and say the 40s, just to be on the
Okay.
safe side. So it's only been what, God, only 80 years. Is that right? Since the first TV came out,
Sounds about right.
and yet we have touch screens, and we have Elon Musk putting these things together where you'll be able to move things with your mind and download
Oh
information
yeah.
into your brain.
Well,
That
there was a really good book by Philip Corso called The Day After Roswell. Have you ever read that?
Philip Corso, I know who that is. He's the guy who supposedly come up with all these inventions all of a sudden.
Well, yeah. So his
Huh.
position is that all the stuff that we have enjoyed in the past 50, 60 years was reverse engineered off of the ship that crashed in Roswell, including fiber optics and integrated circuits and you know
Oh yeah.
fucking all that shit. Yeah. So and that's probably a more modern example of that, but like even geez, there was like Renaissance paintings with flying saucers in them and
Hmm.
uh you know passages in the Bible read just like alien abduction lore, you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
Jacob's ladder, that's fucking typical. And
The,
perhaps they didn't have the language that we do now, but that shit's been with us since we've been around.
right. No,
Yeah.
I've read a lot of the same stories, or watched them on YouTube, or watched them on TV back in the 80s or 90s. Like when you brought up Philip Corso, it's so weird because they were talking about fiber optics were the greatest thing that Philip Corso ever discussed would come out, and he was right. And then 1989 or something that I learned about this guy. And then I could swear to God that they mentioned something about being able to touch a screen one day and everything, will, you can move things on the screen. And I was like, no way, that's crazy. But yeah, yeah, it sure is. But I'm that type of person like you are. I pay very, very close attention to the human side of technical technology evolution.
Uh-huh.
Like, how do I put this? Like, it's almost like my own private little social experiment that I'm always running, to see how many people out there are lemmings, or another
Mhm.
word for lemmings is sheep. The
Mhm.
sheeple who just run around, bah, eat the grass, do what they're
Oh
told,
yeah.
follow the shepherd. That's it, and they're good little sheep.
Oh yeah.
Even though
Well,
I fought all my life to not be that sheep, but I can't. They don't let you not be that. They won't let you be free. To go roam the hills and find your own existence. You have to wake up in the morning and be the Walking Dead guy who
uh-huh.
for the next paycheck. But through all this time, I've been able to see past the shepherd. I look on purpose. What is beyond the shepherd? What is it over the hill that all the other sheeps are ignoring because they just either they don't want to see it or they don't care to see it. I don't know.
Well, so something you said earlier intrigued me. It sounded like you're, at least what you can remember, was of your own volition. Were you were you like, okay, whoever's out there, I'm here and come and find me? Or did you just wake up and you were in their presence?
I literally asked for them to that sounds so weird, but okay,
It
so
doesn't sound weird. Go
well,
ahead.
as I get bored sometimes, I've seen Star Wars 1,000 times and I'm like, I could watch that, but I just don't want to, or I've seen this episode of that, or I've seen everything everything possible, and there's nothing that was in the theater, able to be watched right now. So I'll scour YouTube and find myself in a rabbit hole so that it takes up time, and hopefully I'll learn something new that nobody else knew or nobody else believes in. So I look for stuff like that. Well, one day I come across this video and I thought, oh, this is total BS, man. There's no way this was literally made by an alien or whatever. And in the video, I wish I could find it. It probably wouldn't take long, but the alien says, we are here, we're among you. It's a whole hour and a half long. And I know it sounds like I'm crazy or just being dumb, but it asked, hey, if you'd like us to see you, if you'd like us to appear over your cities and help humanity and this, that, and the other, just ask us quietly in your own head. And so I was like, all right, I mean, I'll play along. That's how I felt. Like, what's the worst that could happen? It was that same week that this happened to me. The one I described last stream, where I was being held in someone's arms and I was warm and comfortable, and I could remember everything down to the smell of ozone in the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, see, for me, it got really intense right around puberty, and not in the, I mean, there were reproductive things, but uh, I've always had this sense that I came here to Earth and that I'm not from here, or that whatever it was that I was doing, I stopped in order to come here and do this. Um, and I feel like all the other races that I was involved with were like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna go do that? Okay, maybe we'll come and say hi." Um, and it's like I'm saying, like the Greys are probably the most popular race that everybody knows about, but there's tons of races that have been around enough to compare to the Greys. Uh, and we kind of talked about it before. I don't know if like it was garbled up, but I think there's like a soul signature.
I heard that.
Yeah. So I think like if you decide that you want to come and incarnate on Earth, cool, but it's not like a necessity. This isn't like kindergarten. It's just like another place out there. And you can incarnate and do whatever you want, wherever you want, and chalk it up to your soul experience. So
it's been said somewhere and heard by me. I can't remember where, but that we are as old as the universe itself. And we are so brilliant, and not like, hey, we're really smart. Not like that. Like, we've done it all, we've seen it all, we've experienced it all. And the only way to continue existence without being so incredibly bored is to go and do things like try out being a human, or like, have you ever seen Star Trek?
Like you volunteer to forget. Yes.
Yeah, we're all like the Q from Star Trek.
Yes.
But we can just become a human and live that lifetime, and then when it's over, we're snapped out of it, and we're like, oh right, this is who I am.
We wake up from the dream. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's trippy to think it, but like, can anyone say we aren't? That's the trick.
Well, and that's in the Bible too. It's like, verily I say unto thee, ye are gods. That came out of the mouth of Christ.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I'm not a religious person because of the experiences I've been through and the shit that I remember. But when I come across Christians or whoever, I'm like, all that shit's in your book. You don't even know you haven't read your book and you're sitting here trying to wash my brain.
Right. No, I get that too. Well, there are many books not even included in the Bible. The Book of Enoch
Yep.
is one. The Book of Mary Magdalene.
Yep.
Um,
Judas wrote a book too.
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Well, and actually in the book, Christ says, I'm going to ask you to do something for me, and it's going to look bad. And Judas goes, okay, I
Whoa.
need you to betray me. Yeah. I need you to betray me in public.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. It's pretty fucking crazy. And you know, like I'm saying, I don't really believe in that necessarily. It's just I don't know, what comfort stories, things people tell themselves to make themselves feel better. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't remember which Catholic priest it was, but at some point they were putting together the Bible, and the new version, the King James version. I get them mixed up, but whichever one we have now, they were putting together, and they had like all these scrolls, and they were stories, which they called the books of so and so, and they
Uh-huh.
didn't put even a half of them in the Bible. There's like all these other ones that they say some burned in the city of Alexander, and then some just never made it past the editor, the priest, the editor. That
Well, yeah. The Catholic Church has come out and said that there is at least 17 acts of plagiarism in the Bible. And you go back and you look at like the cult of Mithras. It's the same story as Jesus. It's just a different name.
Mhm.
You know, you look at Horus and Osiris, and it's and even if you subscribe to the Bible,
Mhm.
the Hebrews were imprisoned by the Egyptians and by the Babylonians and the Nazi Germany and all that kind of shit. So
What's
if
weird?
you
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, what's weird is we receive over time, whoever's here, I guess us now, uh, we find that there's all this information from our ancient history, and yet we're not allowed to read it. And they want to teach us specific parts of it, and then claim that once we've read it, that 17% of it is plagiarized, and then
Yeah.
expect you to fall in line like a really good little sheeple. It's so confusing.
Well, and that's why I think it's important to have a sense of your own identity apart from your physicality, because there is a especially with the grays, there's a lot of deception.
Mm,
If you're getting into those sort of degenerate groups of grays where they want you to perform. They don't they don't care about who you are as a person individually. They just care about their agenda. And I often think about this because for what it's worth, they're a dying race.
they're dying.
Yeah, they've cloned each other into obscurity. So like you were talking about the differences, like the little ones, like the 3 foot tall ones, in my experience, they've been artificial intelligence. They're not people. Like the taller ones, the ones that are probably like 5 feet and up, those are actually incarnated with a spirit kind of thing, and the other things are just robotic.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the thing is like in their past, they find it offensive to reproduce like we do, so they started cloning all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's
Well,
just now they see that's a fallacy, and so they're trying to move around it and breed with us because I don't know, like you mentioned Stephen Greer. Who is the other guy? um Alex Collier. Um, we're we're basically a melting pot. We're not native to this planet. We're genetic creations, and the only things that the ETs have to create with is themselves. So it's like, okay, we got a nose from here, we got a ass from here, we got a head from here, and
Well,
yeah,
they did
yeah.
good.
Stop me if I sound insane.
I know they did good making the ladies. I'll say that.
Dude, even in the Bible, humans had fair daughters, and the sons of the gods came down to mate with them. Yes.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
Here's a neat story. Since we're on the Grays for a second,
Uh-huh.
about a woman who, in the 1940s, late 40s, I guess it'd be around 47, right? Worked at the Air Force Base down there in Nevada, not Area 51. It was called something else.
Nellis.
Not,
Nellis.
I don't know what was it. Nellis? I thought it started with a D. It doesn't really matter. It was one of those, right? And she had written this like diary, and she was a nurse at one of these bases. And apparently there were more than one saucer that crashed that day. And they brought.
I heard that there were two. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's like 4 or 5 beings. I don't know how many of them survived. I heard at least one of them survived.
right. And I don't know if there were more than one survivor either, but I think if this story were true, this is where the one went. But so she's there one day, and they call her into the office and say, okay, we know you're just a nurse, but you're going to be brought into this highly classified situation. We're not going to allow you to go home until we get information, and we're going to introduce you to this person. And anyway, the alien that they had wouldn't talk to anybody. But when the alien met her, it would talk through its mind to her mind. And in her diary, she describes all this really well from the moment she meets the alien. And all this other stuff happens. She learns that it can read really quickly, so she leaves it with literature overnight. It never sleeps. Its skin is not plastic. It's not flesh. It's not metal. It's something that there's no description at all for. Like you said earlier, some sort of artificial intelligence, maybe. But
well, I had a really interesting experience once, and you're a martial artist, aren't you?
well, I'm not practicing right at the moment. But yeah,
But you fucked around with martial arts. So
yeah.
I had the occasion to play kung fu with a gray once, and
wow.
So yeah, this sounds kind of stupid, but
It's fun.
there's a well, so I don't know how to explain it, but like if you bend somebody's elbow the wrong way, you can break it, right? And I got this like, yeah, go ahead and try it kind of vibe from the gray. And I was like, okay. And I bent it the wrong way, but it was like a straw. Like it had some give to it, and it felt hollow. It didn't feel like a bone, and it snapped right back as soon as I was done. As soon as I let it go, it was just like, yeah, okay. It's not gonna hurt. And go ahead.
These experiences, are they as real as you feel right now? Like
that one definitely did. It was a couple of apartments ago.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because like everybody's like, oh, I'm paralyzed in bed, but no, I was like in the fucking dining room, and there was 3 of them, and one of them gave me their arm and was like, yeah, go ahead and try it. But if
Wow.
so what I got was that their skeletons are cartilaginous. That's probably the best way to explain it. And unless you destroyed their head or something, you can't really hurt them like that.
Like your earlobe.
Yeah. Yeah, or like your nose.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a feeling. So where we would have like, you know, your ulna and radius and humerus, they were more cartilaginous, and their arm bent way out of shape and was able to snap right back. Just yeah, it was bizarre, man.
So when they crashed the saucers, I imagine they must have sustained some serious head wounds, and that's the reason. Or
Well,
I,
and that's again, that's the logic for artificial intelligence or robotic kind of beings. So they're expendable. You can send them in ships and they can crash and die. And uh random Brad, thank you, our one listener. For now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so yeah, it's that thing. Yeah, you create expendable things that you can put in high risk situations. And if for some reason a planet was, you know, covering their ears and shutting their eyes and pretending like they're the only things out there, why don't we go ahead and send a ship down there and shake them up a little bit?
That's interesting. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
could you tell like about how many experiences? Like I said before, mine are very dream state. And
Mhm.
I feel like they're on purposely. They're like supposed to make me guess. Like, I feel like I've been kept in the dark, but occasionally given a little glimpse just to keep me looking, just to keep me searching. But you
Sure.
seem to have had some straight out, real, hey, what's up type of
Oh
experiences.
yeah. Yeah, I actually there's a time in my life where I doubted the veracity of my experiences, and I went I went to a psychic,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, if you're for real, then you're gonna know who I'm talking about. And she ripped it right out of my head, and I was like, okay, this is crazy because you said a name that I thought I dreamed, and you pulled it right out of my head, and I haven't told you from the beginning. So um that was a being from Polaris. Um Name was Todd. That's the blue guy that I sent you in our phone text.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and that was a that's an experience that was so real that I like I felt like I wanted to pass out. Like I was losing my consciousness because of the person in front of me. And I want to emphasize that it's a person. It's not like woo fucking crazy aliens. It's no, these are people.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
weren't born here, but they're people, you know, and that's the feeling that I was getting the entire time was like, look, you don't remember me, but we've worked together in a different capacity. So I'm here to show you myself and that it's okay. It's okay to be people, you know? Um,
Wow.
because right now we're kind of, I mean, we make movies and we make TV shows where extraterrestrials are all over the place, you know, like okay, we're gonna go fly a ship and there's gonna be ETs out there.
Right.
um but we're not openly welcome of them at this point. And I also think that if they were smart, they probably would leave us alone right now because we're so destructive and murderous.
Makes sense. The reason they tried to make contact was apparently when if you look at the Eisenhower um, story,
Yeah,
that because of the nuke, it apparently the nukes that we
it
shoot
freaked
off,
them the fuck out. Yeah,
yeah, freaked them out or something.
like we're kids playing with matches.
Right. They said it affected their dimension when we exploded a nuke. It wouldn't just go off here on Earth. It would go off in other dimensions.
Yep.
something like that. Yeah.
That's exactly what I heard too.
Which,
Because we're so well, because our human eyes can only see like a tiny percent of the spectrum.
yeah, that's
And yeah, and the fact that we have dream experiences and psychic experiences and deja vu experiences proves that we exist in more than one continuum.
yeah,
And we're sitting here blowing shit up that we don't even have the foggiest clue what we're doing. We just know like it could what stop Japan from
right, right.
yeah. And then like people want to blow shit up just to fucking try it. Like, okay, Bikini Atoll, fuck you.
Right.
Boom. You can move.
They
You know,
made
the Tsar bomb.
them unneeded, not needed.
Nah. You know, and we just if you think about what we were originally created for, and if you want to go back to your Bibles or your Sumerian scrolls, we were bred to be warriors, we were bred to be fuck toys, and we were bred to be workers.
Hmm.
So it's going to be hard for us to get that out of our head at the stage that we're at unless we're going to be really fucking honest with ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, Rook's here. What's up, Rook?
Brooks here. What's up, man? How you doing, sir?
We have 3 people watching now.
Oh yeah. It's me and you and Rook.
Oh, that's probably it. Yeah. Duh.
Yeah.
It's
No,
Rook.
that's fine. I don't expect anybody to fucking watch this for a couple years anyway. And you know, as it is, like half of it's garbled up because of the government and shit.
Yeah. The first 20 minutes, Rook, were interrupted. We tried 3 times to get on the stream, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty weird.
But nukes are obviously at the atomic level. You know, when they were, I mean, so naturally it makes sense that it could cross dimensions because it would be part of other dimensions. You know, when you go down that small, it literally is almost like another dimension. At least that's what I've heard and read from, you know, physicists and whatnot.
Well, yeah, and if you read the Sumerian texts and the shit that was handed down from the Akkadians, there's a thing called the Lamentation of Ur. You are. That's a city. That's where fucking Abraham was born, and it was the fucking seat of Sumer Akkad for a long fucking time. But the way that it reads is nuclear weapons. And there's places like in the Sinai Peninsula where it's still radioactive and there's like unnatural glass, you know,
Mhm.
hanging out there. So
And glass.
so when so when humans started playing with atomic weapons, it's like shit, they really did that. The people that made them did that, and now they're doing that. What the fuck? We got to go down there and see.
Yeah. There's sand glass in Egypt also. Yellow, like a golden amber sand glass made of you know, the extreme heat on the sand. And they actually, at one point, you probably heard this, one of the pharaohs was buried, was it Tut? I feel like it might be, was buried with a knife made of a metal that does not exist on Earth, a dagger.
It's element 152, isn't it?
I don't know, but apparently they say, well, the only way he could have had this is if an asteroid with, you know, precious metal in it hit hit Egypt or hit the sand there. Then they say, but the problem is back when this would have happened, there was no freaking sand there. It was a jungle.
Well, yeah. So if you look at Akhenaten, who was King Tut's dad, Akhenaten had a very unusual skull shape. Like
Mm.
he was one of those oblong fucking skeletons. Like they uh they dug up a lot of those guys in fucking South America.
Hmm.
But the thing that I heard was that he was Syrian, like from the star Sirius. And his big contribution to Egyptology was he was trying to bring a monotheistic religious viewpoint to the populace.
Yeah,
And it lasted for his lifetime. But then after he died, they were like, "Yeah, fuck that. We're gonna go back to Horus and Osiris and Ra, and
that's right.
all those people."
Yeah, he banned
Yeah,
the
dude. And it's
worship.
just shit like I have this. You're breaking up a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, you started breaking up. Go ahead, man.
You're breaking up, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, actually, I had stopped, and you must have heard my relay, my delayed relay. You were saying about Horus and Akhenaten.
Well, yeah. So Akhenaten, look him up. Like, look up his head shape. Um,
Body.
what
Yeah,
I
I talking about.
yeah, what I heard was that he was from the star Sirius, and then you can see like Orion and Sirian uh reflections on like as far as monuments go in Egypt. Um, like where they set up the pyramids and where the Nile River is and where the ocean is, like it mirrors fucking Orion, the constellation. So uh Orion and Sirius, man, that's like the confluence.
It's really weird. I watch a lot of stuff about the pyramids at Giza Plateau because they're still finding new things all the time. There are catacombs underneath the pyramids. This has been proven they are there, but the Egyptologists, in as many years as they've known they were there, have still not found where they lead to. It's like 500 miles of caverns.
Well, totally, and that's like what Edgar Casey was on about. He said that there's something underneath the Sphinx's paw that proves the veracity of all these ancient stories. So we like to pretend like okay, so there was cave people, and then like one day we got smart and invented the wheel, and no, but like if you look at all that old shit, they're saying like, no, this was a gift from the gods. The people from the heavens came down and taught us how to do this shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like I was saying earlier, we've went from TVs only 80 years ago to touchscreen and wireless energy transference. You can
Right.
set your phone on top of a little thing, and the energy just goes right into it, like no metal touching metal, nothing. Hell, that's what Tesla was doing.
Yep.
But in that little bit of a time, we went from what horses and carriages to flying into space and all this other stuff. Think about it. Like a few thousand years ago, when they say Egypt, the pyramids were built in 20 years, would have meant placing a 2 to 15 ton block every 20 minutes into a perfect alignment and everything, in a better alignment than anything we could do nowadays in construction. You're telling me that there's not still a billion more things that we don't know about, and that we learned it all by ourselves just a couple thousand years ago?
Oh
No,
yeah.
possible.
When I even think the big three pyramids are not of human hands. I think like whoever the fuck came down and built them for whatever reason they built them. I've heard it had to do with like stabilizing gravity and all that kind of shit. But then humans saw that and they were like, "Oh, that's pretty fucking neat. We should try that too." And then it turned into like the bent pyramid where they saw something that they thought was awesome but they couldn't do it.
Right.
So, of course the gods have different technology and electricity back then too, because you don't see any like torch marks or you know
They have perfect drill holes through 15 tons of rock. I mean, granite rock.
Yeah.
And they have no way to prove how they did it. Like, there's no way that it would have had to have been some sort of a laser, but they have no scorch marks, but they do have drill marks in them. So what powered the drill, and what's the drill look like?
Exactly.
They still look perfect to this very day, like they were just drilled 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. And indeed, like we lack the technology to duplicate that even today.
Exactly. I used to sell granite, and I'd go back there with the guys on the CNC machines, and they'd have a laser cutting this. Well, it was laser guided, but it was a diamond bladed saw with water circulating through it so that it didn't overheat and get stuck in the granite. I'm telling you, it is an undertaking to cut granite in any form, period. Uh, these freaking machines were 2 tons, and you couldn't just move them anywhere. And you certainly couldn't drill holes like that. I mean, in moments, in some of the granite. I mean, some granite obviously you can drill faucet holes, but some of that stuff you just couldn't drill through. And that stuff is the same stuff they used. The soapstone they used on the outside of the granite wasn't soapstone. The pyramids, it was that stuff that
Limestone.
I'm sorry, limestone.
Limestone. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's a little easier to work with, but freaking some of those granite pieces were. There's no way we couldn't do that today. You're right.
Yeah. Well, and that even brings up the whole like out of place parts. Um, you remember those? They're like 4 billion years old, but they're like perfectly machined spears.
Did you say spears?
Spheres, like SPHERE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, 4 billion years old. In a time where like the planet should have been fucking molten,
Right.
according to science, right? But somebody was there.
Somebody,
Somebody had spears.
somebody,
They brought their spears with them.
hey, I've got a good idea, man. What's that? Let's make balls.
Totally.
Big balls.
Look at that brand new planet. Yeah, let's go take our balls out there.
Yeah, we'll leave them there, and people in 4 billion years will wonder why there are big balls there.
DC.
Hit their alien weed and laugh.
Let's just put this right here because, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I want to touch on this, and I've unfortunately got to get going in
that's good.
7 or 8 minutes, but because I want to call my girlfriend before she falls asleep.
Oh, what are you gonna call her?
You got me there, man. Sweetheart might work if I'm late. That's for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy, I want to say it was the 70s or something. The national park behind his house or something got hit with a lightning, and it started a forest fire, and everything burned up. And he was back there, a few days after it went out or whatever, and he was digging around, just kicking the rocks, whatever, and he found this silver sphere. Have you heard of this situation, this guy?
Nah, keep going. It's fascinating.
Oh man. So it was a little bit larger than a basketball, and it was just a silver sphere, perfectly round. So he took it home and he thought, oh, isn't this cool? Something got left over from the fire or whatever. Maybe, I don't know what he thought. I can't remember. So he took it home, and one night he's sitting there playing guitar, like his acoustic guitar. And while he's playing, the thing starts to move, like roll all by itself. And the dog starts freaking out. And so they didn't know what to make of it, but they were like, okay, maybe it's just the magnetic poles of the earth. Maybe they had a little earthquake, whatever it was. Forget about it. It's no big deal. Well, as the days went by, when the guy was alone in his house, the doors in his house would open and shut at night, and he'd think someone was in the house, and he'd go check, and that was another weird occurrence. but other things happened. It got to where the ball would literally follow the dog around, and so they said, okay, well, we got to go talk to somebody about this. They talked to a guy, and he said, well, you need to go to the Navy, and they'll be able to do a metal analysis on it and find out what it is. So they were like, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be like Sputnik or something fell to Earth. So he's like, takes it to
follows the dog around.
What's that?
And follows the dog around.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, as soon as I can, I'm gonna find this when we get off here, and I'm gonna text it to you. But
yeah,
it's intriguing. So the Navy, he made them sign an agreement that they wouldn't open it, would not attempt to open the sphere. So they agreed, but they did a metal analysis, and the metal is not from Earth. They don't know what kind of metal it is. It's just not from Earth. And so the Navy turned it back over after like 6 weeks of trying different, tests on it or whatever. And as far as I can remember, they kept it the rest of their lives. So yeah, but this thing had like a life of its own, apparently. Yeah. So
crazy.
Maybe it's something from an alien race. Maybe it's something that got left over from another ancient time. But it is a perfect.
Maybe that's what's interrupting our broadcast.
You never know. But it's been weird how much we've been interrupted. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably like winding down. So,
Hello. Hello? Are you there?
dude. Okay. Yeah, it's been a strange night. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the broadcast. Flip, I really appreciate you coming out. I'd like to have you on in another couple weeks so that we can continue our discussion into this strange arena, and hopefully the government won't be fucking with us so hard.
That is so weird that when you disappear, well, you stopped making sound, like your audio went, and everything in my house, the music my son was listening to, my parents' TV, like everything stopped. There was no audio. Totally freaked me out for a minute. I was like, "Are you there?"
They're watching us.
My brain started playing.
They're watching us, and two people who is also watching us.
Yeah, which is probably us.
Probably us. Right on. Well, I want to thank you once again, and everybody out there, stay awesome.